The Feast of the Ascension on the top of the Mount of Olives, 40 days after Easter. The small wayside shrine hosts once a year the celebrations of the different Christian denominations according to their respective calendars. The impossibility of celebrating together with the faithful, the financial difficulties for more than 30 structures, the pilgrimages completely stopped, the eyes focused on its 3 hospitals. 2.5 months of lockdown were also felt for the Anglican Church present in the Holy Land. Five years ago, Saint Maria Alfonsina Gattas and Saint Mariam Bawardi were canonized. For the occasion, a Holy Mass was celebrated in the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary in the Mamilla Monastery in Jerusalem, presided over by the Apostolic Administrator of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, Bishop Pierbattista Pizzaballa. The Christian city of Qaraqosh in the north of Iraq, after the devastation and persecution of ISIS, today finds itself fighting against the coronavirus. The local church and the civil authority have set up 2 committees to help the neediest families. The Latin parish of Jerusalem, thanks to the initiative of its parish priest, Brother Amjad Sabbara, has created a fund called the Charity Fund, supported by parishioners to help families in need. Small and unique. To reach the place that commemorates the ascension of Jesus 40 days after Easter, you have to climb to the highest point of the Mount of Olives, 808 meters above sea level. Today it falls under Muslim management, but once a year it hosts the celebrations of the different Christian denominations according to their respective calendars. Under a burning sun, the solemn entrance, the Vespers and Compline prayers are held for the first time in a long time with very few believers, and the loosening of the anti-coronavirus measures removes the obligation of the mask when the celebrations take place outdoors. Inside the central cathedral there is a stone in which the tradition sees the footprint left by Jesus before ascending to the Father, followed by the gaze of the disciples. Then, in the Acts of the Apostles, we read that 2 men in white robes said to the disciples, "Men of Galilee, why are you looking at heaven? This Jesus, who in your midst has been taken up into heaven, he will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven."
Già questa indicazione delle persone che guardano verso il cielo è stata
This indication of people looking up to the sky was already very important for those who built the first place. The Roman noblewoman Poimenia in 378 had a first structure built, a first building, which had an open roof.
che aveva il tetto aperto.
Very little remains of the first building. After its destruction, the Crusaders rebuilt the edicule, leaving it once again without the dome.
Quando vennero qui i musulmani nel 1187,
When the Muslims came here in 1187, they took over the place and thought they would finish this edicule by putting up the roof. But they did not know what this place meant. We are destined to heaven. Men are destined to look to heaven to be able to live now, here, in this life, a life that can return and must return to heaven.
qui in questa vita, una vita che può tornare e dovrà tornare in cielo.
In the late afternoon, the vestments are put back on. This year, a consequence of the restrictions still in force, the large white tents set up to welcome the faithful are missing, as well as the most evocative part of the feast, the frequent night celebrations that take place in and around the edicule until dawn. The following day there are the celebrations of the Apostolic Nuncio Monsignor Leopoldo Girelli, the community of Gethsemane, the Arab community, and finally the solemn Mass presided over by the Vicar of the Custody of the Holy Land.
La cosa più importante che noi dovremmo...
The most important thing we should ask to the Lord is to continue to sustain our lives, to enlighten them, to guide them with the grace of His Spirit, so that each one of us may fulfill that mission to which he has been called, serving the brothers, but above all making the Lord present in the midst of the brothers. It is what the disciples have understood here on this mountain, the hope with which they descended waiting for the Holy Spirit. The impossibility for pilgrims to reach the sanctuaries and holy places affected almost everyone, explained the custodial vicar, referring to the particular historical moment that the whole world is going through.
Non per questo la gente appunto di tutto il mondo.
Nevertheless, people from all over the world are not absent from the Holy Land. Every day we are here to remember not only those who ask for it, but all those who need help and support.
Tutti coloro che hanno bisogno di aiuto, di sostegno.
The impossibility of celebrating together with the faithful, the financial difficulties for more than 30 structures, the pilgrimages completely stopped, the eyes focused on its 3 hospitals. 2.5 months of lockdown were significant also for the Anglican Church present in the Holy Land. The Reverend Hossam Naum is the current coadjutor bishop of the Diocese of Jerusalem, which reaches Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon and Syria. He explains that in the complex of St. George in the middle of East Jerusalem, masses have only recently begun again, strictly outdoors and with a maximum of 19 people attending.
The most difficult thing was for me to say to the people, stay at home. Like we as clergy, we tell people to come to church, we encourage them to come, but for their safety and for the safety of everybody and the public, we had to tell them, please stay at home. At that moment, it was a big disappointment. It was something was missing.
For the Reverend Hossam Naum, who will receive episcopal consecration in mid-June and take over the leadership of the diocese in April 2021, the biggest problems concern the structures it manages.
All these institutions had to continue providing services for the people. So we all had to face, I would say, a really significant financial crisis and challenge within these institutions and how to keep them open, how to keep them operating despite all the funding that has stopped, including all the tuition in our schools. Like we are 18 schools and almost all the tuition from the parents that we collect normally had stopped, and we still had to provide for all the teachers and the staff in terms of salaries and all of that.
But the focus of attention is now mainly on the hospitals. The hospital in Nablus, the rehabilitation center in Jerusalem for young people with disabilities, and the hospital in Gaza. Here, with the inhabitants of the Strip closed for years within armored borders, a possible outbreak of the epidemic would have dramatic consequences.
And the contingency plan for the Ministry of Health in Gaza was our hospital will become the main surgical hospital, while other hospitals will treat coronavirus in case of outbreak. The expectation that we will do up to 300 to 500 surgeries a week. The hospitals, they have done a fantastic job. They really managed to control life there in terms of the coronavirus. They had really good plans in place. And thank goodness we haven't had any incidents of any corona cases in our hospitals so far, and we hope we won't.
5 years ago, Saint Maria Alphonesine, founder of the Order of the Sisters of the Rosary, and Saint Mariam Bawardi were canonized. To commemorate the event, a Holy Mass was celebrated at the Monastery of Our Lady of the Rosary in Jerusalem, presided over by the Apostolic Administrator of the Latin Patriarchate, Monsignor Pierbattista Pizzaballa, in the presence of the Sisters of the Congregation present in the Holy City.
Now in this period of difficulties due to the pandemic, we are learning the strength of this daughter of the Church of Jerusalem. She was a daughter of the Church of Jerusalem. Difficulties, wars, a lot of issues, a very difficult time for that land, but she was able to create from this chaos something new for the people of Jerusalem and especially for the Christian community in all Middle East, in Jordan, Palestine, and Lebanon, and so on.
The Congregation of the Sisters of the Rosary is an Arab monastic order. The ascent to the honors of the altars of the Palestinian Santa Maria Alfonsina Gattas has filled the local Christians with pride. This saint's first message was to stay in our land. She loved humanity, she loved parishes, she loved this holy land. She remained attached to these places and worked actively in Christian education, especially the education of girls.
التعليم المسيحي وخصوصا في تعليم البنات.
5 years later, in addition to joy, there is a very deep spirituality. The commemoration of this canonization takes us back to the spiritual legacy that our foundress left us.
In his homily, Bishop Pierbattista Pizzaballa praised the works and activities carried out by Saint Mariam Alphonesine, especially in schools. Together with her, Saint Mariam Bawardi, Mary of Jesus Crucified, originally from Galilee, was canonized.
Mariam Alfonsina Danil Gatas et Mariam a Gesù Crucifixo Bawardi.
During the 5 years following the canonization, we brought the relic of Saint Mariam Bawardi into the world to talk about the Christians of Palestine, the Christians of the Holy Land. We visited the Middle East, Latin America, and the United States. And so, Saint Mariam Bawardi was able to make the presence of Christians in this Holy Land known throughout the world.
It is a very beautiful occasion in which we tell our people, the members of our church, wherever they are, that holiness is possible. We can only become saints by living the Beatitudes. Living the Beatitudes means that we place our souls in the hands of our Heavenly Father and trust in Him. It also means working to bring peace, love, harmony and unity throughout the world. It's like time has stopped once again. In the Christian town of Qaraqosh in northern Iraq, freed in 2017 from the presence of the Islamic State, which left desolation and devastation, life has not returned vibrant and active. Today, what worries the inhabitants of the Nineveh plain and the whole of Iraq is the coronavirus pandemic that has led the city to take on a ghostly air. Quiet boulevards, police guarding the main streets, closed churches, curfews. Once again, this small Christian community is being put to the test. Today, the church is facing several challenges due in particular to the coronavirus pandemic that has affected the whole world. I cannot deny that the Easter holidays were different. Everyone suffered because they were unable to attend the liturgies of Holy Week, Easter, and all the other liturgical feasts. We too, as the rest of the world, are obliged to stay at home to ward off the risk of contagion, to save our church, our city, and the whole of Iraq. With a weak healthcare system, also due to the devastation by the ISIS jihadists who had conquered it in June 2014, Qaraqosh has taken preventive measures from the beginning that have limited contagion. Many activities in support of the Christian community by the local Syriac Catholic Church and civil authorities. To support the population in need and the neediest families, 2 committees have been set up. The first, support and help, and the second, solidarity.
We started collecting donations from people, and many have donated. We have received donations from the inhabitants of the city, also from Muslims, and from those who have emigrated abroad. With what we collected, we were able to buy food, which we distributed to the neediest families. The first week, we distributed food to more than 500 families.
The church could only be the first to help its faithful and protect its children, just as the hen protects its chicks. A fund dedicated to supporting the neediest families in the Latin parish of Jerusalem, funded by the parishioners themselves, a real sign of hope despite the great difficulties that the coronavirus pandemic is leaving behind. It is the charity fund established by the parish priest, Brother Ahmad Sabara, to help families who find themselves in a particular situation of need and who often, because of dignity, do not ask for help. At this time, we have to help each other. Usually the parish receives important support from the custody of the Holy Land and other donors from abroad. But in this time of pandemic, the whole world is going through a difficult time, and donors cannot think also about the needs of people living out of their communities. The idea is inspired by the Bible and in particular by the experience of the prophet Elijah with the widow of Sarepta of Sidon. When Elijah asked her for some water and a piece of bread, she said to him, "I have only a handful of flour and some oil. Then I will go and bake it for myself and my son. We will eat it and then we will die." The prophet Elijah said to her, "Prepare a little focaccia for me first and bring it to me. The flour from the jar will not run out and the jar of oil will not be empty." She believed him, and this is what actually happened. Elijah would then bring the widow's son back to life. The message is that if we do the right thing, the lack of something will turn into a miracle. This is why the charity fund was created. We are all in need of help at this time, but if we work together, we will work real miracles for each other. Each parishioner undertakes to bring 3 shekels a day, which is a small amount, like the flour and oil of Sarepta's widow. Then at the end of the month, the whole amount is allocated to the needs of needy families and university students who have to pay tuition fees to complete their studies. 3 shekels is a small sum, but when they are offered to a person in the name of God, the person will receive a blessing. That is what we need at this time. I did not expect an answer from such a large number of people, and that really impressed me. More than 100 families have joined the initiative. The creation of the charity fund during the Marian month is not accidental. It recalls what Mary did during the wedding at Cana in Galilee, when she wisely recognized that there was a lack of wine in that house and was able to anticipate Jesus' intervention in the life of that family. The Virgin said, "Do what he tells you." What did Christ ask of them? Water, which represents the simplest things we have. Then with Jesus' blessing, the water was transformed into wine. So the little things we offer will be a source of happiness in our lives. The coronavirus epidemic has brought anguish, pain and much need, but a new strength and above all a new way of thinking has made its way into the Latin parish of Jerusalem. The aspect we have to work on is, how do we make the parish able to help itself? Only a mature church can accomplish the mission. On the other hand, the Acts of the Apostles tell us that no one remained in need among the apostles because the help of one alleviated the difficulties of the other.